wicked world. Your data's uncorrupted, but does something skip inside you? That's what takes up time.
Hi there, welcome back to My Hot Kitchen. I'm Wendy, and this week we're gonna go down south and cook up your sweetie a little shrimp etouffee. We're gonna serve it up with potato pancakes, coleslaw, and a delicious peach tart. So shrimp etouffee is a classic Cajun dish, and you can often find it made with crawfish as well. Now it's very French in its method here, so the very first thing you're gonna wanna do is get a little roux going. So I'm gonna melt about 3 tablespoons of butter here in a nice big pan. This is also something that you can make in a Dutch oven if you have one. Now this roux serves as the foundation of the flavors for this dish. So once the butter's just about melted, go ahead and add a couple tablespoons of flour, and then you just want to stir that all together and make sure it's all blended and delicious. And then to that you're going to add onions and peppers and celery that's been all minced up nice and fine. And then you're just going to let this cook together and let the flavors take on each other. And it's probably going to take about 15 minutes for that roux to turn a nice golden brown color. You can smell it becoming very aromatic the second you add it to the pot. It smells so good. Now just let this simmer until you see that the color's turned a little bit brown on the flour and that the vegetables are starting to turn very translucent and mushy. This is looking like it's just about there. This is how I know. I'm going to grab a little piece of pepper, and if it squishes easily in my fingers like that, then I know I'm good to go. So the next layer of flavor is, of course, the almighty garlic. Got about 3 cloves here, chopped up nice and coarse, and a whole tomato. Pulp included this time. Mix that together. And that's just going to need to simmer for a few minutes while I go ahead and make a little bouquet garni to get our shrimp flavor going on. Alright, so the bouquet garni is a very classical French sort of thing here. It's cheesecloth with herbs and spices in it. You can put all sorts of flavors in here. I'm going to keep this pretty classical though, since this is a classical kind of dish that we're working with. So I'm going to spread out my cheesecloth. And into it I'm going to add a parsley stem, celery leaves from the celery that I put into the etouffee, some oregano, some thyme, bay leaf, and black peppercorns. But what makes this bouquet garni really unique is the fact that to this you're going to want to add the shrimp shells from the shrimp. So when you're making this dish, you want to purchase uncooked shrimp. And then separate the shells from the meat and tie it all up in a little satchel here of cheesecloth. And what you're doing this for is to get that shrimp flavor really infused nice and deep into the dish. The classical recipe for this calls for shrimp stock that's been cooked separately to be poured in at this time. However, most people I know don't keep shrimp stock around. And who wants to spend all night in the kitchen making shrimp stock? So just add a little bouquet garni, add a couple cups of water, put a lid on it, and let it simmer for a good long time, about an hour. And make sure that you press that bouquet garni into the water so that those flavors of the shrimp shells can infuse into the dish. And now I'm going to put this on my back burner here and let it simmer. So I'm going to turn up the heat here and get this pot of water boiling so that I can make potato pancakes. And now I'm going to go wash my hands. Alrighty. And now the etouffee's had a couple minutes to sort of simmer together, so now it's time to really season it up. You can need about a 1/4 teaspoon of cayenne pepper. Looks like about a 1/4 teaspoon to me. And a couple teaspoons of paprika. Pour that in my hand so I can get a more precise measurement. And then stir that in. Wow, that's coming together beautifully. Oh, it smells so good. Put a lid back on there. Let that keep simmering. Now, back to this boiling water business here. Potato pancakes are basically just mashed potatoes with a few yummy ingredients mixed into them, and then they're fried. So I'm going to start by boiling off a couple of nice big russet potatoes. To my water, I'm going to add a nice generous amount of salt. And then I'm going to let these guys cook until they turn to mush under the pressure of a fork. So the potatoes have had a few minutes to boil now. Check them here. Oh yeah, they break right up. Need to stop them from cooking, get them out of this water right now. So I'm going to drain them into a colander in the sink. And shake off the excess water here. Excellent. And then back over here I come. And now I'm going to get a nice little saute pan pre-warming over here on my nice hot burner. Excellent. And then back into my hot pan here, I'm going to add my hot potatoes. And I'm going to start smashing them up. And into them I'm going to smash about a half teaspoon of flour, a half teaspoon of baking powder, and a couple of cut up scallions. Also going to add some cayenne pepper. Gotta have the cayenne pepper in a dish like this. Nice generous amount. And then I'm going to crack an egg into it and mix that all in together as well. I'm going to work quickly so the egg doesn't cook and coagulate before I can mix it all into the potatoes. And now let's take a little look-see and a taste of the etouffee. This lid's very hot, so I'm going to use my spoon to get it off. Excellent. Totally see that the tomatoes are doing the job of thickening up the sauce, and that everything's starting to break down and become one delicious little dish. Give it a little taste. Ooh, and it's coming along very nicely. Very, very nicely indeed. All right, now I'm going to need to put that lid back on because it's still got about another half hour or so to go before it's perfect. That gives us just enough time to start working on the peach tarts. So I've got a couple tablespoons of butter here, and I've got a nice hot pre-warmed oven, and I'm going to put the butter in the pan that I'm going to be making the tart in the oven so that it can melt. And then I'm going to start mixing up the delicious cream cheese mixture. So this is going to be a real fun little quick dessert to whip up here. Basically what you're going to do is make a cream cheese custard, very similar to something you would make for cheesecake. And start by beating an egg into about 4 ounces of cream cheese. Then, once most of the egg is incorporated into the cheese, you can add a little bit of sugar. Playing the role of the sugar in this dish will be the heavy syrup that comes out of the can of peaches that you want to use. Probably just need to add a couple tablespoons of it. All right, I've got most of that worked out now. Give it a little scrape here. Make sure I get all those lumps worked into the cheese blend. More beating. All right, that looks good to me. I'm going to go retrieve my pan out of the oven that has the butter in it. And the butter is going to form the basis of a crust. I'm going to be making a ginger snap crust. Excellent. You just want it to be melted. You don't really want it to be browning. Don't really need it to be bubbling. I'm actually going to need to hold on to that. So to the butter, go ahead and add about a half cup of very finely ground ginger snap crumbs. Blend it together so it's all nice and evenly mixed. Okay, Careful not to burn yourself, that pan will be hot. And then once you have a nice crumbly, gorgeous mixture here, and you can see that the butter is distributed through the crumbs, go ahead and press it into the pan. Form yourself a little crust here. Try to work it up the sides of the pan a little bit. Excellent, that should do the trick right there. And then you're gonna need to take some peaches and lay them over the top of the crust. Now, peaches are a summertime favorite, of course, but once in a while in the wintertime, I get a real craving for them. I gotta have them. So, in come the canned peaches. Once again, not a big fan of canned food, but it does have its purpose. Especially when you can make something as yummy as this. Lay them out in a pretty fashion. And then, take your cheese blend and pour it over the top. Working from the center out. And then this guy goes back in the oven until that cheese mix is all baked. Now I'm going to bake this at 375 degrees for about 25 minutes. All right, this is an excellent time to make the coleslaw because the etouffee is cooking, the potatoes are ready to go in the fryer, and the dessert is going as well. So with the coleslaw, a little secret is always make the dressing and then toss it with the cabbage right before you intend to serve it. So that was a 1/4 cup of tightly packed brown sugar and a 1/4 cup of white wine vinegar, and I'm going to mix those up together. This is the first and most important part of the process of making a good dressing for coleslaw. The acidity of the vinegar really helps to dissolve the brown sugar. So the last thing that you want is a grainy coleslaw. And then once you see that all the lumps have dissolved, go ahead and add a nice big dollop of mayonnaise. This is also about a 1/4 cup. And then this is going to take a few seconds to mix all together. And while I'm mixing that in, I'm going to go ahead and add a nice tablespoon of good mustard. Mix that in as well. I'm going to add some black pepper. And celery salt. Keep on blending. And give it a little taste. Amazing. And then I'm going to fold in some green onions and some herbs. I have here a little dill weed and a little fresh basil that I've chopped up. And then I'm just going to let this stuff chill here for a little bit until right before service when I will toss it with the cabbage. Now I'm going to take this opportunity to go ahead and slice up my cabbage. So I'm thinking about a 1/4 head of cabbage each. I'm using 2 different colors because I love color in my food. And I've already sliced off the quarters. Now what I'm going to do is just sort of work my knife in there and get some nice thin shreds off the cabbage. Coleslaw is of course a picnic favorite, but I think it's good with a lot of different dishes. And a lot of people don't really appreciate cabbage for all the benefits it brings you. But believe me, it's good for you and you should eat it. And I don't see how you couldn't eat it when it's dressed up with a delicious dressing like that coleslaw. final ingredient that I'll be tossing in with this particular type of coleslaw is some pecans. It's another little salute to the Southern style food that we're enjoying tonight. So I'm just gonna set this aside, serve it at dinner. And now it's time to go back to the potato pancakes. So what I'm gonna need is a nice generous amount of butter in my big saute pan here. A couple tablespoons worth at least to start. Get it melting, and then we're gonna form the potatoes into little hand-shaped patties and fry them off. It's gonna be so good. All right, that should do the trick right there. So I'm just gonna reach in there, grab a little dollop of potato, flatten it out, drop it in this gorgeous butter. I'm shooting for about 2 each here. Now traditionally, etouffee is served with white rice, which is delicious. However, I wanted a little contrast in texture and flavor here, so that's why I'm opting for these delicious potato pancakes tonight. Try to shoot for a thickness that's nice and even, between 1/4 and 1/2 inch thick. And voila! So I suggest letting these cook on medium heat in lots of butter for probably about 10 minutes and then flip it over. What the real indicator is going to be though is how brown that side is. You want to make sure that first side is really good and brown before you go for the flip. All right, and it's been about 25 minutes, so I should probably go check on the little peach tart. Oh, gorgeous. That is amazing. You can just see the peaches peeking up through the cheese. The cheese has just started to brown. That is going to be so good. Hey, it looks like it's time to flip these over. They smell good. Wow. Excellent. Look at that beautiful color. It's exactly what you want to see. They should flip nice and easy, just like flapjacks. I'm going to go ahead and add just a little bit more butter to this, just to make sure that side's nice and golden brown and crusty as well. So now with these guys flipped over and cooking on the second side, it's a perfect time to come over here and whip up the coleslaw. So all I'm going to do is just add the cabbage, most of the pecans to the mix here, and I'm just going to toss it all together. And look at that, the cabbage is just picking up the coleslaw dressing. That is so beautiful. Once I've got a nice little coating on there, I'm good to go ahead and pull it out of the bowl and plate it. And then I will garnish it with some more pecans. Those are ready to go. Alrighty, these potato pancakes look done to me, so I'm going to go ahead and drop them on the plates here. Gorgeous little darlings that you are. Alright, and now it's back to the etouffee for finishing. Alright, I'm going to bring the etouffee front and center here. Take the lid off it. Well, that looks amazing. First order of business here. Squeeze the bouquet garni and make sure you get all those flavors out and infused into the etouffee for the last time, and then pull it out. It's not needed anymore. And in with the shrimp. Now, you're not going to want to take very long to cook these. Depending on the size of shrimp, maybe 1 minute, maybe 3 minutes. These are 21-25 size shrimp, so I'm going to say about 3 minutes. And right as they turn pink, I'm going to adjust the seasonings. And I'm waiting till the last minute to add the salt to it because there's salt in the shells, there's salt in the shrimp, and there's most definitely salt in the butter. And I want to give the dish time to concentrate those flavors before I start messing with it too much. All right, I'm gonna give this guy a little taste here. Now I know exactly how much salt I need to add to it. Also gonna add just a couple sprinkles more of that delicious cayenne pepper. Stir that a couple times and call it good. And then I'm gonna come over here and plate these bad boys up. I'm gonna kind of cascade them off the potato pancakes here. Outstanding. Looks and smells so good. Little Creole cuisine tonight for you and your sweetie. I think your sweetie will be quite impressed with you once again. Finish it off with a little sprinkling of fresh herbs. And you just made dinner. And these babies are ready to go on the table. I'm so excited. Delicate little wok here. So you just cooked up a very seductive dinner for your sweetie with Southern influences all over it. Pair this up with a nice dry white or red wine. I'd suggest a Pinot Gris or a Pinot Noir. Call in your sweetie. Y'all are not invited to dinner. Yoo-hoo, lover boy.
Wow, that smells good in here.
Uh-huh.
That's awesome. Wow, you look beautiful.
Thank you, baby.
Look at this meal. Oh, cow.
Going down south tonight, my love.
This is delicious. Oh, man, does this look good. That's pure heaven. This is such a hot kitchen. Man, this is
So thanks for joining me in my hot kitchen tonight. Have fun turning up the heat in your kitchen, and I'll see you next week. Night-night.
You're too pure for this wicked world. Your data's uncorrupted, but does something skip inside you? That's what takes up time in your life. Add the sum of the slides, and sooner or later
Pet the kitties.